thank you so much for joining. I am just such a big fan of the work that Founder Collective does and the work that you do in the ecosystem. So it's a pleasure to have you here. Will you start by sharing a little bit about yourself and about Founder Collective?
Sure. I was a two-time entrepreneur. The last company I founded, we sold to 3M quite a long time ago. And my first investor in that company, Dave Frankel, and I started Founder Collective in 2009, so 15 years ago, with the mission of being the most aligned fund for founders at the seed stage. My co-founder in that startup I mentioned was Micah Rosenblum, who quickly became our third partner in the fund, and we have a fourth, Amanda Herson. We test and try to live up to that mission of alignment to the founder every single day. If you were in our team meetings every week, you'd actually hear us wrestling with what is most aligned and how do we support the founder in the best possible way, even against our own interests in many, many situations. We believe long-term, if we do that mission right, we will serve our interests along with the founder's interests extremely well over a long period of time.
Awesome. Thank you. And, thinking about fundraising, what gets you really fired up when you're looking at a founder, when you're looking at a company? As you know, I'm a huge fan of your writing. Check it out. Eric is a great writer. What are some of the metrics that you love to see or the qualities that you love to see in a founder?
Right. So we're seed stage investors. So there's usually very, very little in terms of metrics out there at the time we invest. So we're really trying to evaluate the founder's approach to their company. And we spend a lot of time asking questions about the company, but really what we're trying to do in a sense is interview the founder. And the idea is an exceptionally substantive founder, which is what we're looking for, is going to be unbelievably deep on their own business. They're going to be diving really hard on what are the hardest parts of building that business. So we say that the great founders want to talk about the hardest parts. And if you're spending all your time trying to figure out how you're going to overcome the biggest obstacles of your business, when somebody asks you about that, you're probably not going to be defensive. You're going to be pretty excited to talk about your theory of how you're going to get around these obstacles, the things you're testing, what your tests have yielded so far. Even if some of what it's yielded has not been very positive, you're going to want to talk about how that changed what you're doing. So we're really trying to have a conversation where the founder is pretty vulnerable in terms of talking about the journey they've been on and why they believe so deeply and what they've been doing to validate that with their customer.
Love it. So often, it's about the person and that person's attributes early on. Right now, founders are working hard to raise money. It's, taking a bit longer than a few years ago. One thing that I've observed is that the best founders are really thinking deeply about how to prepare their cap table, how to prepare, of course, their investor deck, how to even prepare their team and mentally and emotionally for that fundraising journey. What do you see when you think about the best of the best founders? How are they preparing?
Yeah, it's getting harder to raise capital. And I think one of the bad things about it being easy, it certainly feels good to get capital quickly. It feels good not to have to work as hard to get it. One of the bad things I often saw about that was people were raising capital before they had actually even done the work to go really deep and be extremely committed on their business. So if you're talking about how to prepare, what I would say is it's actually good to give yourself time to go deep, figure out what those challenges are, figure out how you're going to overcome those challenges, and be ready to really have a great conversation on that topic. Often what happens when you do that is you move a little bit in terms of what you're doing. You might radically even change what you're doing, and that's totally fine. It's much, much harder to make a huge change after you've raised capital because people want you to go, and build. And people being the investors, but also the team members. You have money. Why aren't you going faster? So it's great to spend that time before you raise really getting deep on your customer. What do they need? Why do you think you're solving their problem? And why do you want to spend the next decade working on that problem and using this approach? The deeper you get there, I think the easier it gets to raise money.
That totally makes sense. Last, I would love to hear something that's exciting to you right now, whether it's, an industry or a trend or something going on in and around Boston. What's top of mind for you right now?
I mean, what excites me, and this gets back to the idea of the substance of building companies, really building muscle and compounding real value over time. People have gotten away from this idea that it's all about raising money, the game of raising money, round after round after round. How do we show the vanity metrics that drive the next round? And instead have gotten much more focused on efficient entrepreneurship. So that's something I've been writing about for years, have believed deeply in, even in a time where I saw a lot of capital corrupting companies, where companies raised oodles of money and never built great businesses. I think we're going to build better businesses because people are more focused on how to efficiently build them and how to build that muscle early. And so I'm excited for an environment where people are building better businesses.
Yeah, agreed. I think capital efficiency is so important. Having a good, strong foundation is super important. And they're, right now people are very focused on that, which will benefit all of us for years to come.
Totally agree.
Well, thank you so much, Eric, for doing this together and for all that you do for the ecosystem.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for all you're doing at Fidelity. Appreciate it.
Thanks.